I love these things. So one of my things that I've learned over what I have conservatively guessed as doing 35 years of IT, and that's a justifiable number because when I was in high school, um, I was in grade 11. When I was in grade 10, the Commodore PET showed up in the high school. If there was a computer systems program at my high school, you had to make punch cards, which got shipped off to, I believe, McMaster University, and then they come back to see if your program worked or not. But I think when I was in grade 10, was the first time we actually got a Commodore PET 4032 computer at our high school. And that's the year they started the computer science programs classes. And that year they started grade 11 and 12 computer science classes. They didn't have a grade 10 computer science class, or I would have taken it in grade 10. But grade 10, after school was over, I would hang out in the computer lab while the grade 11s and 12s are working on their programming. And if there was a free computer, I got to use it. And I started learning everything that the grade 11s learned and everything the grade 12s learned. And I started making my own programs on Commodore Basic 4.0. And picking up stuff because geeks are geeks and they like to share stuff. And so when I was in grade 10, how old would you be in grade 10? 13, 14, 15? So yeah, almost 40 years ago now. Because I'm going to be 57 soon. Yeah, it's a long time at 35. Yeah, it's been a long... It's been a long time. 56 minus 14, 46, 42 years, maybe. So we'll run up to 40. 40 years ago, I was doing IT. And so when I got to grade 11 and got to take the actual course, Mr. Turner, great guy, one of my favorite teachers, he basically, I won't say let me teach the course, but I got to help out a lot with all the other kids learning computer stuff because I had already learned the entire course from the year before, hanging out in the computer lab afterwards. And again, I don't want to use the word basic now. It was bleeding edge back then, but I look back now, what I learned in Commodore Basic, it's basic. but of course, you have to get your feet wet. You have to, crawl before you can walk and walk before you can fly. Unlike Tony Stark, but that's a whole other story. But what I learned, even in grade 10 and computer science class, and it's nothing to do with computers, but it's more of a life thing, is that if you don't know something, if you're coming into something completely unknown to you, still show up. You show up. Step one is to show up. And I have this cute little pithy story that I got from possibly the best Aaron Sorkin production called Sports Night, where Napoleon, it's the analogy goes, Napoleon had a 2-part battle plan, Napoleon being the most brilliant strategist in the history of mankind, peoplekind, and yet he had a 2-part battle plan. This is his brilliant strategy. 2-part battle plan. First part, show up. 95% of the decisions made throughout history are made by people who show up. You show up. Second part, and this is a crucial part, the absolutely crucial part. See what happens. Part 2. Show up. First part, very important. Second part, more importantly, see what happens. and react to what's going on. And so I've been following that my entire life. I don't, because of IT and the nature of IT, that from everything that I've seen for the past 40 years, is that you really have you have very little control over what's going to go wrong when it's going to go wrong, and how badly it's going to go wrong. I mentioned the time this happened back when I was working for King, about 7-8 years ago. Sandy and I were camping in our pop-up. It was great. And a Saturday morning, my cell phone went off at 6 a.m. And they said that it was King, my company, wonderful company, back in the day. But my friend was on the other line saying, we got hit by lightning a couple hours ago, and we've been doing this MTO job, and we need, nothing's working. The operations center got hit by lightning. Now, when I say operations center in this context at a asphalt making plant, it's not like the Pickering nuclear power plant. It's a 20 by 20 building, and it's pretty dusty, dirty, and whatever, but they have all the conduits for all the PLCs out there that runs all the machinery, the motors, and the mixers and level off or whatever, and they have a computer back in the head office or the operations center where you got the big flashy buttons and the big red button says stop and whatever. And it's also tied to a computer so you can control to make various. I had no idea until this company that there's different types of asphalt. I had no idea. Hey, drink this time. I would have assumed that, but I never put any thought into asphalt on roads and sidewalks. But there's lots of recipes to make different types of asphalt, and so you have your computer that mixes or tells how much ingredients of what various aspects get into the big silos that get mixed up. Anyway, they got hit by lightning and nothing was working. And it was 6 o'clock in the morning, and I woke up from camping, and I drove from camping down to the asphalt plant. It wasn't that far away. We weren't camping out in the middle of nowhere, but I had no idea what I was going to face. I have walking into critical scenarios before where everything's going wrong and people have to, get it working again. But I've never had a place that was hit by lightning that took out the entire environment. And I get there, and they're telling me that the actual lightning hit, there's a TV tower, a radio antenna tower, we call it that, but we used to call them TV towers, but the radio antenna tower, because people used to use CBs back in the day, and there was still this tall antenna right off, attached to the operations center, 60 feet tall, and that's what the lightning hit. And the guys that were in the booth at the time that were making asphalt for the MTO job, Ministry of Transportation Ontario, by the way, they're repaving the 401 somewhere. And it has to be done because you're closing the 401 and you can't, there's no delaying this. So anyway, or the 427 was one of those jobs, the MTO job. I walk in there, I had no idea what I was I had no I have my phone with me, and my phone, because this is how I set things up as IT, and I've actually had huge conversations with big bosses in the past about this specific fact, is that I have what we would call monitoring software, alerting software. And what it does is it monitors the environment and it alerts me and whoever else wants to be on the distribution list that nodes go down. And nodes, if we're completely uninformed, a node could be a PC if you want it to be. It could be a switch if you want it to be. It could be a phone. It could be like anything, a Wi-Fi printer, anything that connects to the network. This thing will monitor. This software that I have running on one of our servers back in the head office will monitor. Now, most people now just use cloud-based services, and I, again, am too old, and hey, you kids get off my grass, and I refuse to adapt to the new environment where the cloud-based services take care of this, because I have a piece of software that I've been using for 20 plus years now. It's a company, I won't mention their name because I'm not here to advertise for them, but they've been very good. And for me, every other monitoring alerting software package that I've seen, cloud-based or PC-based or server-based or whatever, is far too complicated. It's engineers adding stuff for the sake of being engineers. Every single one of them now. And the pretty pie charts and the pretty flows and blah, 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 and the QSs and all this important stuff, but engineers kept on throwing stuff into this, and so you're setting it up and it takes 1,000 years to make sure it's doing what you want it to do. Whereas my piece of software is intuitively easy after you set it up. Even the setting it up is easy, and it just scans the network, finds all these nodes, and do you want to monitor them or not? Like, it's just like this. Anyway, so I keep on using this, and I set up my alerts. And, there are certain things I will not monitor, like laptops and desktops, because people turn them off at the end of the day. So I don't monitor them, but the software package has found them on the network and blah, blah. Anyway, so my software had alerted me that, a bunch of nodes at the asphalt plant were down. And I didn't think anything of it because the alerts showed up at 3 o'clock in the morning on my phone. Because that's what they're going to do. And I said, it's the weekend, I'm camping, I'm not going to worry about it. Until the furious phone call at 6. So, but I saw when I woke up at 6 again, I'm looking through this, and there's a lot of stuff down. Like, basically the entire building property was not responding to anything. That my monitoring software cannot see anything, including the gateways. And the gateways for those of you who don't understand what gateways are, you have, everybody now, because you're watching this, you have an internet connection to your house. If you either go on the Wi-Fi or a wired connection to your computer, or you're looking on your phone, a gateway is taking your local area network, LAN, local area network, and connecting it to the internet. That's the gateway. And if you do your gateways properly, you won't have to worry about people hacking into your stuff and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, even the gateways were down. Like the entire property was down. I said, oh, so this is substantive now, and the lightning to some big, because it wasn't just the operations center that was down, it was like the entire piece of property that was down. And so I'm going to go into this, and I'm thinking just by the alerts I got, everything is dead on the entire piece of property. And I thought, well, that's probably not exactly accurate, but I couldn't see into any node on the entire property. But if, and the example is if the gateway goes down, but everything is on behind it, my software package can't see beyond the gateway. And if the gateway's down, it'll say the gateway and everything behind it's down. You show up, everything else is on, but somebody turned off the gateway. That's happened before, by the way. But anyway, so I'm driving down there and I'm going through my head and I'm going, if it's this, if it's this, if it's this, make sure who do I have to contact and blah, blah. But of course, you can't make any decisions until you show up in the building. And I show up on the property and there's 50 pickup trucks laying around. People are running around, blah, hit by lightning, and blah, blah, blah. And I get the lowdown from the manager, the guy in charge, really nice guy. And he said, yeah, we got hit by lightning and things flew off the wall inside the operations center. Like when the lightning hit, there was a physical things flew off the wall kind of thing. Like was it like a shock wave that knocked pictures and clipboards and blah, blah, strewn about, as they say. Also a giant flash, a giant spark, giant whatever, and then boom, everything's dead. The lights off, the breakers broke, tripped, like just dead. And they were this is 3 or 4 hours later, and these guys were all working out, getting the motors working to make the asphalt, blah, blah, blah. And all the conduits that were going out to where the motors are and the silos are, they were pulling out these reams of just completely fused together wires. Because it just melted. Like this big, huge piece of spaghetti just bled together. And I thought, okay, if I'm taking a step back, this is awesome. Because I've never seen this before. This is like, but my job there was to get the network up and running, which was down because I couldn't even see anything on the property. Now, the operations center is over here on the property, and half a mile down the road inside the property, like 40 acres, whatever. There's a head office of the property where all the accountants sit, because they're not going to sit in the operations center, and where the payroll people sit, blah, blah. That's way over there. They were down too. They didn't get hit by lightning, but they were down. So I start small, and this is what I do every single time in a situation, almost any situation that has many, many moving parts. I look at something to start and I say, oh, there are switches in the operations center and one of them's off and I can't get it to turn on because it probably got fused by lightning. The other switch, because we brilliantly, what any IT person should have, is called redundancy. There's always a spare. If you need to be up, you don't want to wait. Oh, that one's dead. Now we have to order a replacement because on the weekend, there's no company in the world that's going to ship you a switch that day. So there's always a spare switch in the rack, in the operations center, and there's a spare switch in the scale house, just in case that switch dies, the main switch dies. And there's a spare switches in the main rack back at half a mile down the road, in case any of those switches dies. It's there, it's on, but it's there, and there's nothing plugged into it. So I said, okay, well, this is down, but I can't even see the switches over at the head office. Can I get into the head office? Like, I know you guys are all furiously working over here where lightning actually hit, but I need to get over there. They gave me the keys to the front office, and I go drive over there. I go, oh, that switch is dead. That one that connects to the switch in the operations center. And, oh, lightning, probably, but wait a minute. I'm thinking this is the je ne sais quoi of the situation. I did say half a mile, and I mean half a mile. And you cannot run copper cable, internet cable, for half a mile. You have to use fiber, the light connections. Electricity doesn't go across fiber connections. It doesn't. It really doesn't. It's light that goes across the fiber connections, and then you have the endpoints that turn it back into electricity, that turn it back into the network. And so we have a fiber connection connecting the operations center to the main office through a conduit in the ground. And that conduit terminates, well, I'll just use this little thing as a, move this the other way. We'll say this is the head office. The conduit comes into the building here the conduit itself, the metal pipe, terminates there, and from there is just the flex fiber connection that has no steel in it, no conductive properties to it besides the light going through it. It goes from here all the way over to here. Now, when I say this is the building, the head office on this property is a 15-bay garage, because they're also a truck shop. They fix trucks and paving equipment. So there's 15 bays. And then on the other side is the office. So it's going from this corner of the 15 bays, just a fiber connection going across the entire building from 15 bays to the office to the network rack, which is on the far side of the office. This little cubby hole. So I don't know how many feet that is, 15 bays, 10 feet a piece, maybe, I think probably 12. So it's over 150 feet, almost 200 or 300 feet, going from there to here of just fiber connection. And the fiber connection was connected to one switch in the rack. And that switch was dead, fried. To this day, I cannot justify why that switch was dead. There was three other switches in the rack that connected to all the, jacks and printers and faxes and phones and desktops in the head office. They're all perfectly fine. They were all perfectly fine. But this one switch that connected to the operations center via fiber connection, it's a GBIC connection right into the switch that changes it from electricity to light. That's what the GBIC connection does. You don't have to know what GBIC stands for, but it's a connector that converts electricity to light pulses. and then it goes across 150 feet through a conduit, half a mile, to where the operations center is. That switch was dead. Still can't justify that. The problem with that switch also being that that's also the switch that the gateways were connected to. So when that switch got fried by whatever fried it, and I don't know what fried it, the gateways went down, because this is the main core switch of the entire piece of property. And so, I have to replace that switch. Well, thankfully, right below that switch is a spare switch, because this is what I do. There's a thing called redundancy. As the number one factor of any good IT establishment is to have redundancy for such situations such as this. And it's not just a huge lightning strike that took out 4 switches, which was the end of the story, by the way. That lightning strike took out 4 switches, including one that's at the end of. But anything can happen. A short in the actual switch. And if you need to be up, if these people, like it could have happened on Monday afternoon at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then all of a sudden everybody in the front office is not working, because without a switch to connect all your connections to, they're waiting for, nothing can happen without computers these days. So you can have one in a closet down the street at your other office that says, we got a spare one over there. But then somebody has to get over here, right? There's time. If you want it to be as instantaneous as possible, you can even do that, but that's even a lot more money. But there was a spare switch in the main rack, right below the fried switch now. And since again, with my software package, I make backup copies of every single configuration file on all my switches, because this is what you should have. Because you don't want to walk into like an emergency situation. What was that port to? Was that port to a printer? Was that port to a phone? Was that port to a computer? Was that port? You don't want to know that. You don't want to try to remember that. You want to say, hey, here's the configuration file of the switch that's dead, and just set up the new one as exactly the same. Even have the actual config file saved, hypothetically, you have the config file saved that will you just download it to the switch, and that switch is now identical, except it's on. That switch is now identical to one above it. The end. You move all the wires down, 24 wires. Within 5 minutes of me looking at, there's a dead switch here, that switch is up and running with the right configuration file on it, because this is what I do. But again, you say, I don't know, before I got onto the property, I have no idea what's going on. I have no idea. But you show up and you say, I understand this part. That's off. Where does that go? That goes over there. That's off. That's over there. That's off. And you go right back to as far back as possible. That's on. And then what's after that? Get that next piece on, and then get the next piece on, fix the next piece. My big point in this entire thing is you don't walk around for 5 hours trying to literally assess everything and then start implementing a solution. I've never done it that way. I've never tried to understand literally like every single thing that's gone wrong, and I have to then have a checklist. To me, it's kind of self-evident that you have to trace the badness right back to coming into the property, basically. And so you go right back to the beginning. That switch is dead. That connects to that switch is dead. That connects to this switch is dead. Oh, wait, that's the core switch. Shocking. Then that core switch is on. The entire front office is on now. Yay! And my phone starts getting alerts saying, that's link restored. It's fantastic. I don't even have. I had so much faith in the solution. I had so much confidence in that I didn't have to now worry about the front office anymore, because I still can't justify how a fiber connection shorted that out, but whatever. So as soon as I got that switch replaced, I got pings on my phone, didn't have to look at it. Because the critical concern is getting that data back to the operations center. Whatever's going in the front office, there's nobody sitting there now. I'm not going to waste my time walking around. Is that printer on? Is that fax machine working? Is that phone working? You don't need that right now on a Saturday morning at 6:30 a.m. You don't need to worry about that. And this is the other thing I try to tell the kids. Hey, you kids, get on my grass. The new kids, you have to assess somewhat. People are going to scream and shout and push that their stuff is the most important stuff. You as an IT have to hold hands sometimes. You as IT have to say, oh yeah, it's very important, I'm going to get to it. But right now, this is more important, the MTO job, blah, blah. So thankfully, there was nobody at the office because it was a Saturday. And everybody's working the operations plant for the weekend until lightning strike. So I got that switch repaired, went back to the operations center switch. Thankfully, there was a spare switch in there. I had copied the configuration because I already had it onto that one, moved the wires over, boom, it's on. The desktops were all, they didn't short out. The lightning strike didn't kill the desktops, the PLC running desktops. It's just that the PLCs themselves, they had to replace lots. The PLC, I don't know what it stands for. I always forget what it doesn't matter. It's basically the computer code. It goes to the PLC, and the PLC converts that to turn on that motor because you can't connect the desktop directly to the motor. So the desktop, the program sends commands to the PLC. It says turn on for 500 RPM or whatever it is. And the PLC is connected to the motor, and the motor spins at 500 RPM for how many seconds? And it turns it off. It's like a relay. It's a fancier name for a computer-controlled relay, if you remember what relays were back in the day. That converts computer code to actual electricity going powering a motor. And so that now the operations center is back on. And then we still have the scale house, which was also dead. And the scale house connects to the operations center, and the operations center connects to the main office. So the scale house is also that, but again, the scale house has a desktop, it has a weigh scale that's connected to the network, and it has a phone. There's 3 connections in it, right? So that was the only thing that in the scale house on that switch was as a desktop. There's a printer too, so there's 4 things: a printer, desktop, the actual scales, and the connection going back to the operations center. And yet it's a 24-port switch. And yet we have a redundant one right below it for those 3 devices, just in case something happens to the primary. And I cannot keep on stressing to management throughout my entire life, because I always get into these, well, we don't want to buy, if we only need 4 switches, why are we buying 8? Like, if we only need 4 switches. And again, some people could make the case that if you have 4 production switches out there, that you can get away with buying 5 just in case and then you have to move the switch from there over to that building or over to that building, or you have it back at the head office if you have your car, and you can drive over to that office with the spare switch, or over to that office with the spare switch, or you can ship it. But every one of those steps delays the fix. And if time is money, and again, I've made the case before when people get mad at me for doing it this way. I'm gonna put a pause in that story to tell you yet another one I think some of you have heard before. I got a call on Labor Day at dinner time. Sandy's making me a beautiful lasagna dinner, and we're making the family. Just me. But it was a lasagna dinner, and she knows how much I love lasagna. And I got a call as soon as we sat at the table, and hey, Dave, the from the plant supervisor, saying that I showed up. I was just driving by, making sure everything's ready for 6 o'clock tomorrow morning for the shifts to come in, and the network's down. I go, oh, okay. So, honey, I got to go up there. 6 o'clock at night. Off my hours. Again, it's a holiday. I'm not getting paid for this, quote unquote, which is, again, another huge story about management. So I drive up there, 30 minutes drive up there. I'm looking around, show up. Oh, yeah, network's down in this area here. Everything else is on. I got the alert to my phone, blah, blah. I trace it back to a rack, a mini rack, has 2 switches in it, but also has what we call a UPS, uninterruptible power supply, which is basically a big battery. So if you plug things into this big battery to UPS, and the power goes out in the building, whatever that battery is supplying, it'll change the 12 volts back into 120 volts and run whatever is plugged into it for as long as the battery lasts. It's called a UPS. I do recommend having them for your home because it also has a surge suppressor. So if your house gets hit by lightning, it won't fry the equipment that you have plugged into the UPS. And if there's a brownout or whatever, your stuff will stay on during that brownout. So whatever. Your mileage may vary. I love UPSs. I think they're great. Well, the UPS is, the switch is off. So I open the rack, the switch is off. It shouldn't be off. The power's coming to the rest. The lights are on, everything. And I follow the power cables. The UPS was dead. Again, on the grand scheme of things, that should have been detected. So again, that was a deficiency that I've been meaning to fix, but I won't go into the politics of it, but it was not being monitored. That UPS itself was not being monitored. The UPS died, the batteries got old, and it died. So I just unplugged the switches from the UPS, plugged them straight into the outlet, came back on, everything's back on, blah, blah. I sent an email to my boss, we have to order a new UPS for this rack, blah, blah. And perfectly up and running before 7 o'clock, done. Drive back home. And then I get, I won't say major flack, but I got a little flack, got a little pushback from management saying, Dave, you had no reason, you're not being paid to go out there on Labor Day. Why would you do that? You should have waited till there was a ticket created, and that would have been during your business hours from 8:30 to 4:30, Monday to Friday, excluding holidays. And that was a holiday, you should have been there. And my point to them has always been, and I've had this conversation a million times with management because it drives me nuts. I said, when I'm aware of something, which is why I have my monitoring software in the first place, when I'm aware of something, I make the determination whether I'm not going to jump out and go fix it, or that can wait until business hours. When somebody calls me from the building and says, Dave, by the way, the plant manager or the plant supervisor says this is down and the guys are going to be here at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning, you darn right I'm going to hop in my car and drive out there. I'm going to. You can write me up in HR. You can absolutely write me up. I know I'm doing the right thing here. And my whole point was, and they still, honest to goodness, I can't even understand how I'm explaining this to people with VP in their titles. And I'm just a lowly tech support analyst. Had I not gone out there at 6 o'clock at night to figure out what was wrong, and it was a quick fix. Had I not gone out there at 6 o'clock on Labor Day, Tuesday morning would have happened. Tuesday morning is going to come. And their shift starts at 6. My shift starts at 8:30, but their shift starts at 6. And there's no big bosses in the building at 6 a.m. It's just the guys who are running the lines. They show up, they turn the machines, they start producing product, blah, 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 and the rest of the VPs and whatever, the administrative staff show up at 8:30. These guys would have showed up at 6 o'clock in the morning, Tuesday morning. Oh, the machines aren't running. Huh. And they're on salary, by the way. They're on hourly and they're on union, but that's another story. I love unions, but that's another story on top of that. And they go, oh, well, and they don't know where to look. They don't know where the switches are. They shouldn't know where the switches are. That's not their job. And so we should call Mike. Oh, yeah, who's going to call Mike? So 6:30 is going to show up before somebody even calls somebody that can potentially do something about it, like get a hold of me. 6:30, 7 o'clock. I'm not going to get a call until 8 or 9 o'clock. Usually when I'm driving to the head office, and then I have to turn around and go back the other way to this building to go figure out what's going on. So they're going to have at least at minimum 2 hours of downtime before I get up there. At least. I was actually telling the guys just because I know the environment, I wouldn't have known until 9 a.m. I wouldn't. Nobody would have thought about calling Dave because the supervisors show up. What's going on? They go, the computers are on. Why isn't nothing? Oh, somebody should call Dave. Somebody should create a ticket. It doesn't necessarily have to come to me, but it's going to be me in the end anyway. But it's going to be 3 hours. And so you have 20 plus guys on union hours from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Just they can't do it. They grab a broom, sweep the floor, whatever, but they're not making product. They're not making product at all because the network is down because the UPS died. But of course, nobody knows that until I get out there and do the research and find the UPS died. So it's like, I saved the company lots of time and lots of money, and I do not need a pat in the head for it. As part of the gig of IT, as part of why I got into this 40 years ago, because for me, I like being that guy. But nobody has to say, "Oh, that was a great job, Dave. That was a great job. Oh, nicely done. Here's the pat in the head. Here's the tickets to the ball game." If I get it, that's nice, but that's not the expectation, nor will it ever be my expectation. I don't have to be the hero that needs to get his name in the paper every time he saves a cat out of the tree. I don't have to be that guy. I know I did a good job. I know I did the right job. And I know I went against management because management called me to the carpet. And I wouldn't even talk about this story. This story would never have been in my head to talk about had I not been called to the carpet for it. You shouldn't have gone out there Monday. It was your holiday. You're supposed to take this time off. I'm going, that's not how any of this works for me. Other people, and again, I've talked about this before, I'm walking in this direction. This is what I'm going to do for 40 years in IT. You guys can, and I've never held it against anybody else. Oh, I got the call on the weekend, I didn't go then there because it's the weekend and I was on vacation, or I was like, no. And then hey, you're right, because you're not getting paid to do that. You're off hours. Years ago, when we had pagers, whoever had the pager for the weekend had to be on call and had to show up. But you were compensated for that financially. You had the paging weekend, and there was 4 of us. We all just had the pager for 1 weekend of the month, and I didn't mind that either. And this is kind of where it started. But in the end, right now, it is just me. Overall, I have a whole team, but they are busy on the non-break fix stuff with all the projects and whatever, and they don't know the environment the way I know the environment. They don't know the users because they're not out there liaising with the users all the time, and they would go out during the weekend. If somebody called them, I would imagine they would go out during the weekend. But I'm the one that's built a relationship with these guys for 10 years. Over 10 years, and they're going to call me. So, and I want them to call, and that's what I said to HR. I want them to call. No, they shouldn't be calling you directly. I want them, because again, I don't want to, here's the other scenario. If had I not got the phone call, if the plant superintendent said, I can't call Dave because it's the weekend. And then there's those 20 guys standing around doing nothing for 3 hours until I get to the office on 8:30, and then hop in my car and drive up to Brantford, wasting more time. It's 3 hours of them doing nothing. We're not making product. We're not getting anything done. How much money was wasted there in this company? So it's not like my hour of 30 minutes there and back, and then like 15 minutes to diagnose and fix it. So we'll say it just over an hour of my entire time, including driving. For what? This is my time, right? And did I expect to be compensated for it? No. Would have been nice? Sure. That's a whole other topic. But I didn't do it to be compensated. I did it because my sense of support for the environment that I support has to be this way. And nobody in upper management and VP and HRs and blah, blah, has come to me in my entire time in doing this for so long and made me think something different. They are just watching out for as a CYA, they're covering their butts because they don't want some whatever else is going to happen after that. And I'm going, I can't live that way. I would not be able to, if I got the call on Labor Day and they said, I can't be there, I'm not driving out there because it's my vacation day or it's the holiday, I wouldn't have been able to sleep that night. I would not have been able to sleep that night. And that's my whole thing about this whole thing. And again, we talked about this before, moral imperatives versus moral virtues. To me, this is a moral imperative. It's not a moral virtue. Other people do not have to hold this moral imperative because, again, I am who I am and they are who they are. And I still support them for being who they are, the way they want to be. And I know I've never, ever, ever thought less of somebody else who won't jump out of their chair on the weekend to go take care of this stuff. And again, there's a balance there. Like if I got a call from, say, Boisbriand out there in Quebec, I'm not driving 6 hours to fix it. Like unless we talk about that. But this was not a lot of time out of my day to drive out there and fix it, to make sure the guys on the floor will be fine Tuesday morning. And so, and going back to lightning strike, like I got there, I think I got the call 5:30, 6 o'clock, the numbers or whatever, but the sun hadn't come out yet, and the storm was just passing, because the storm went through our campsite too, by the way. So, but the storm had stopped by the time I got the call, and I was driving down, and I got there and I, diagnosed them, blah, 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 and get them up and running. I was done by noon. I was off the property by noon. And of course, my phone's telling me that everything is up and running. And I did leave, they didn't know what my phone number is. So if there was something that was awry afterwards, they could still call me because I went back camping. I wasn't going to stand around, before they produced their first batch of asphalt because they're too busy working on the PLCs. But my job is only the networking and to make the phones up, the networking, the scale house to make sure they can get the scales going, and the trucks are going back and forth because they still had asphalt in the silos that they're dumping into the trucks. So the job itself, the MTO job was not delayed because they pre-batched a whole bunch of stuff and they put it in these silos. But the silos were running low while they're trying to get the rest of it up and running again. We didn't take a hit outside the company at all for that. The MTO, the job got done exactly the same amount of time they thought it was going to get done. We still got paid, blah, blah, yada, yada. It was fantastic. It worked exactly as it should, I think. So I tell you all that. So the whole point to this is that I do things, and I hate to use this because it's not egotistical. I do things my way. And it's honestly because I can be convinced. I honestly can convince with a good argument. I have been convinced out of doing things. I have been convinced into doing things with good arguments. A good argument does not at all begin or contain or completely thereof, we always do it this way. That argument is garbage. It's always been garbage. It will always be garbage. You have to justify that. And again, we talked about the other thing before about science and stuff like that. Whereas I said, the kids said, oh, those chemicals cannot react because they're inert gases. And because I don't believe that. Let's try. And they got them to react in 1967, which changed our periodic table. It changed how we think about chemistry. That one little thing. We got some of these inert gases to react. Oh, we can't call them inert anymore because they're not inert anymore. We're going to call them noble gases now. Look it up. It's fantastic. I love the story. It's one of my favorite. I'm not a huge scientist, but it's one of my favorite stories. So listening to people say that's the way it is. And in many general senses, I accept that. City Hall, you can't fight City Hall. That's just the way it is, blah, blah. And so I make a very, very conscious determination what fights I'm going to get into. and for me, my consideration of these fights that I get into is whether or not I can sleep at night for myself, where my comfort level is. And yes, that has caused friction in the past. And it will probably cause friction in the future. Because I have been doing this a lot longer than a lot of people, and I'm not better than a lot of people. I can absolutely assure you that I'm not better than many, many people that do IT. But I have been doing this for a very, very long time. And you have to come out with me with more than that's not how we do it because we've always done it that way. And I'm going, that does not at all fly at all with me. And again, because my other point is that the company has to have an inherent trust in IT. I mean, not that they can do whatever they write carte blanche, write blank checks and stuff like that, but and if they show themselves not worthy of having trust, absolutely do something about that. But until such time as they're not showing you that they're worthy of trust, then you have to trust them. And there's safeguards there. And you, like I say, one of my safeguards for me is the fact that I have this monitoring software that literally monitors everything and keeps detailed logs of literally everything, up, down status. And somebody says, hey, Dave, this thing's been down for months. Oh, it's on right now. Or it went off 5 minutes ago. Because I've heard that. I don't know how many times. Oh, this has never worked. I'm going, funny, because it went down 5 minutes ago. my learning software just alerted me that whatever printer device went down 5 minutes ago. Oh, no, it's been faulty for years. And I'm going, hey, Joe, I've been coming out to your location at least once every 3 months and saying hi. And anything wrong? Well, I'm here. Is there anything else you want me to look at? Because that's all part of the gig for me in IT is when I go to a building, I just don't do my fix and get out. I walk around. I talk to people on the floor. I talk to managers. I talk to VPs. I say, hey, everything's good. Everything's good. Everything's good. So I've been coming out there I was there like last week, and you didn't tell me about this. Oh, but it's never worked. I'm going, and my records show that device has been on continuously until 5 minutes ago. Oh, but it's never worked. No ticket, no telling me. And again, what happened is because I was sick, I didn't get out to a location on Friday, and my boss went out there. Oh, boss, Dave's boss. Well, you're here. That this thing's been not working for a long time. And he comes back and he tells me this. He sends me a text on Friday. He sends me a text on Friday. He says, "Oh, I was talking to such and such, and he says that this thing's been flaky for a very, very long time." And I'm going, I was out there last week, last month, 2 months ago, Christmas, Thanksgiving. I come out there like at least once every 2 weeks, and I talk to that guy, and I say, "Hey, what's going on?" No, it's everything. Everything's working. Everything's working. And I'm going, "Oh, that's Greg. That thing hasn't worked in months. It's flaky. It's going up and down all the time." I'm going, "Really?" That stuff drives me crazy, by the way. If you want something to drive me crazy, is that kind of, it's not vindictive and it's not unless it really is. I do not read malfeasance into that. I read that it was down when Greg was there, and therefore they're going to say, "Oh, it's always going down." And I'm going, it's never done when I'm there. So, but anyway, but and this is the nature of doing IT. When people say my mouse isn't working or my computer doesn't work at all, and you get over there and the mouse is unplugged, the screen's on, they can type, my computer doesn't work at all. And they're going, you logged in, I see your desktop. He goes, oh, but it doesn't work at all. You logged in, I see your desktop. What do you mean it doesn't work at all? To me, when I hear it doesn't work at all, it's off. You can't turn it on. No, that's not what I mean. I mean, my mouse isn't working. I said, well, here's the end. Okay, I'm not that sarcastic. Again, I mentioned before that I don't care what call you give me. I don't care what issue you may be having. I will never make you feel stupid. It doesn't. No, that is the textbook for me. I will never make somebody feel stupid for showing up, and if I know just by looking at it immediately that that's the easiest fix in the entire universe, I don't. Oh, that's the easy. Oh man, I can't believe you missed it. How dopey are you that you couldn't see the fact that your mouse wasn't plugged in? Absolutely not. I actually do a little bit of work and blah blah, and I go, oh, and then you hear the beep beep, and plug it in, and there you go, it's fixed. I will never ever make somebody feel insecure about using a computer or having something broken in a computer, because I want them to call me. I don't want them to delay calling me because, oh, Dave's going to be mad at me because every time I call him, he makes me feel like an idiot. No, you never ever do that. I worked with a cohort before a long time ago who made people cry. And I was incensed at that kind of attitude when it comes to IT. At no point in my entire career have I made somebody feel dumb purposely. I've done stupid things, but I will never ever make somebody feel dumb. And I've said this to people, and I know who I'm saying it to, because there are those people. If you move the icon over an inch, they can't find it. Oh, my program's gone. It's moved over an inch. It's over there. I've sat down with them. Oh, Dave, I didn't want to bother you. Bother me, because the longer you delay it, the worse it's going to get. Potentially the worse it's going to get. I said, you can ask me the same question every single morning for the 10 years until I retire, and I'm still going to come over here and I'm going to help you fix it, because my job is to make sure you can do your job, period. That's the entire intent of IT. And everybody now, back in the day it wasn't everybody, but now it is literally everybody in the entire company relies on IT so they can do their jobs. We have our forklift drivers who have to get off and print off labels now. Before, that was always the office job, but now they've consigned it to the forklift drivers. The guys on the lines need to print off stuff for printing in the packaging, blah, blah. IT is on, there's not a single person in the entire company right now that I can think of that doesn't have an email account. And we're actually this is our new process, everybody's going to have an email account and log into whatever to get their pay stubs and blah, blah. So literally everybody in the entire company relies on IT. And I do not want any of them to feel like they cannot come to us when they need us, ever. So if my buddy's going to call me on Labor Day and saying the power's out and the lines aren't running and the guy's going to be here at 6 o'clock in the morning, you're damn right I'm going to get in my car and drive over there at 6 o'clock p.m. on Labor Day. If this place got hit by lightning and I'm camping and I have, if I was out in Whistler, if I'm in BC, so I can't get there. I can't then it will have to be somebody else, or I can walk them through it. And because again, I try to make it as easy as possible for people to restore stuff because I get tons of documentation how to do it. But if I'm not in the area, yeah, I can't be there. If I'm 6 hours away, it's going to take me 6 hours to get there. No, but I wasn't 6 hours away. I was 20 minutes away. I was camping 20 minutes up the road. Of course, I'm going to show up. That's what's going to happen. And at my age, I honestly am at that point now where I won't say FAFO. I won't tell you what it stands for, and I rarely use it. But I have less appreciation of management who fights against that. I have huge respect for management, but I have less respect for management who fights me on this stuff. I really do. And I specifically, I don't respect management less. I respect the actual fight that they want to have for this. And when that fight's done, I still love management. They can still do what they do. They are paid to do what they do. I never wanted to be a manager, which is why my job title hasn't changed in 35 years. I've been offered before. No, I just want to show up, fix stuff, and go home. I don't want anybody reporting to me. I don't want any people that I have to do employee reviews on. No. I love my team. I adore my team, and they're all great people. But I should not and will not, because I'm a softie, and I'm too. I don't know. I don't even know what the word is. I couldn't do it. I couldn't have people report to me. That's just not who I am. I can work in a team environment because I've been doing that for decades, and be I think, a value-added service to all this stuff. But I just honestly couldn't care about managing. And with that, and it does come to a head some point, I don't like to be managed. Like, do this, do that, like a pawn. No, you have an environment that you hired me to support, and I'm supporting the environment. You say this needs to be done, absolutely, I'll get it done. But if you say I'm forcing you, I'm treating you like a pawn, you will go here and you will do it this way. No, I'm at that point in my life. No, I'm not interested. I'm not interested in that at all. I will work with people. I will not work for people. And what's happened in my life now in the past 10 years is the owners respect that. The owners respect that. I will work with you. I will not work for you. Because and I will not, go above my position, because I'm just a lowly tech support analyst, possibly the lowest, in the entire company. But I will work with you. You need something done? Let me know. I'll absolutely get on it. If you order me, screw you. Nobody orders me. I'm too old to be ordered. I'm not in the army. You will do it this way. If I think it's wrong, there's no way I'm doing it that way. And I've had this a few times where I've been assigned something, and they say you will do it this way, and I'm going, no, in the conference call, no, that can't be done that way. That's the wrong way. Absolutely 100%. And I make my case, and they say you're. They've actually said this in a roundabout way. Yes, your way is right, but we've always done it that way, so you will do it that way. No, not remotely interested, because that is going to come back and bite me in the ass. It really is. It's going to come back and bite me in the ass. And I'm too old to care about your ego. I honestly am. I don't care about. I don't believe I have an ego. In that sense that people can't tell me I'm doing something wrong. People tell me I'm doing something wrong all the time. And I have no problem with that, because I do stuff wrong. But I can't stand ego when the ego says, "Oh, I told you to do it this way because that's the way I wanted it done." And I'm going, this isn't good for the business. It's not good for the end users. It's definitely not good for me. So it's just good for you. So no, I'm not doing it that way. And that's caused some consternation in the past, very, very frequently. Because again, most times people say, "Hey, yeah, you're right, Dave. Let's do it that way." And again, I'm not the smartest person in the room. I never wanted to be the smartest person in the room. I was getting stuffed up. I've never wanted to be the smartest person in the room. I want to do my job and go home. And if somebody's got a better way of doing it, I'm all in. Better, faster, quicker, whatever. Sign me up. But until that solution shows up, this is what I'm gonna do, and the people on the floor are happy, the upper management's happy. So a manager that has his or her knickers in a knot because I defied his desires instead of I put the company first. I'm sorry, I don't care. I really don't. It is what it is. I was going to talk about something else, but I'll talk about it in the next video. Show up and see what happens. That's the number one takeaway point. You do not hide from this stuff. And even if you have no clue, I've been in that situation. I told you I was completely in that situation with lightning strike. I had no clue until I showed up and he started looking. Oh, that light's off. What's that connected to? You just start working on it. And it's not just for IT. It's like literally everything. If you know there's a problem, this is a huge room. Okay, this is where we're going to bring back to Lego. And this, I think, was where I was going to go with this in the first place. But now we're 50 minutes into this. I brought that bin out the other day, and I emptied it out here. I had no idea what was in there. No idea. I forgot. And then I got 3 of these things built, and they're going to be put into, 2 of them are going to be put in these blocks. But again, until I dumped the thing out, I had no idea. And yet, if I just left, I don't know what's in there, so I'm not going to look. I can't do that. And the second point, because this is like where boots hit the ground on this and our little area here, I put up today, first time I put up on Facebook Marketplace. I hope it's active. I have my bin, my tote, my 40 pounds of basic brick, absolute basic brick, 1x1s to 2x10s, and the black, white, yellow, red, blue. Up there, and I even said in there that if they want less than 40 pounds, they can just tell me how many pounds they want. I'll give them less than the 40 pounds for $3 a pound, $4. I said $4 a pound, $160 for all 40. It'll be more. Like somebody wants 10 pounds, they're going to get like 11 and a half because I'm not one of these guys that is going to be stingy. But I know I've lent permanently. I've lent 3 bins to buddies. I got 2 more here, so it's not like I'm hurting for it, and it is taking up valuable space under my desk, and it's always in the way. And so that's gone. I'm gonna put these into whatever. So I actually have started now selling Lego on Marketplace, and we'll see what happens. I'll keep you posted. That was a long way, 52 minutes to get to that point, by the way. Show up and see what happens. That's it. That's all. I'm gonna have a drink, and I'm gonna get into starting dismantling 2 of these. And I don't know if I'm gonna film that. I'm not gonna know if I'm gonna talk about it. But this was a good rant, although I've said most of the stuff before, and I'm sorry for boring you with the same stories again. But sometimes I do that. Okay, most times I do that. You guys all take care, stay safe, and I'll talk to you soon.